Hey everyone, this is J-Ron with OwlHackU, and today we have another PortSwigger Academy lab on GraphQL, this one titled Finding a Hidden GraphQL Endpoint. And the objective of this lab is to find a way to discover a hidden GraphQL endpoint and bypass some introspection defenses to learn about the GraphQL schema and then figure out a way to delete the user Carlos. So if you're ready to start hacking some GraphQL today, let's click on the Access to Lab button and let's get hacking. Okay, so I have Firefox pulled up with Burp Suite running, and I'm going to go ahead and click around some buttons and links, and it's a nice change of pace to see a different type of application this time. We do have a login portal, we have some things that we can buy in a shopping cart, it looks like. So let's hop over to proxy HTTP history, and this is different. So like the lab description said, is we won't be able to see the endpoint right off the bat. We have to find a means of discovering what that GraphQL endpoint is to communicate with the backend. So we have a couple ways that we can do this. If we had Burp Suite Professional, I'm using Community right now. We could use an active scan or an audit scan to be a little bit more thorough and see if we can brute force the means of finding that and have it call out inside of Burp. We could use a word list and use Intruder to kind of toggle and check out response codes with a word list provided by like something like seclist. I'm going to use FUF and GoBuster, and there's a reason for that. So I want to highlight using the two tools that do like kind of like the same thing, but show how they can divulge different responses with the default configuration. So I'm going to let that run, and then we'll come back and take a look at that. Okay, so FUF and GoBuster have finished running. And with FUF, I gave it the tech U, I gave it the target with fuzz at the end, just to let it know this is where I want you to put the values of the word list, which I'm using in common.txt, which is inside of seclist discovery web content. And here's the results. So it found like the login, filter, logout, my account with their respective status codes. Nothing in here, like nothing in this output says API to me, GraphQL, whatever. However, we look at GoBuster, this is doing pretty much the exact same command. So GoBuster, dir, techu, what is the target? And then here's the word list, which is the exact same word list, common.txt from seclist. It found two 400s, a product and a status API right here. So it found this API with a status of 400. I want to make this very clear. What I'm doing is not a debate upon GoBuster being better than FUF. It's nothing is further from the truth on that one. I want to highlight how two tools that are doing the same thing have presented me different results. And it's a concept that I like to train new pen testers on and explain this to people is you should know how to use multiple tools that do the same thing because we don't live in a world with a perfect tool. In this case, GoBuster with its defaults found something that FUF did not find with its defaults. And on an engagement, bug bounty, capture the flag, whatever you're doing, you don't want to miss things like this because it could have an impact on whatever you're trying to accomplish. So I just wanted to highlight that. Utilize two tools that do the same thing because they can provide different results. And just to reiterate this, this is not GoBuster versus FUF. This is a comparison of two tools that do the same thing. I personally love FUF. In this case, it did not find something that GoBuster did. That is not a knock on it. It's just how it is. So I'm going to go into Burp now. I'm going to select the slash URL endpoint, send this to repeater, maximize Burp, and then let's provide it that API endpoint. And let's see what it does. We do get that 400 query not present. So let me go ahead and add in query. So question mark query and hit send. Invalid syntax with offering. So end of line or end of file at line 1, column 1. So it looks like we did find where that GraphQL endpoint is. Let me pull up some documentation quickly just to type this out so I don't muffle this up. But I want to say query and then equals query brackets underscore underscore type name. And then what this should do is, if this is working, okay, so now it looks like we have like a valid query in here. So I think we're ready to start proceeding with this lab. We found the hidden endpoint. Let's see if we can get introspection available to us. So what happens if we do right click, GraphQL, set introspection query? I'm going to click the GraphQL tab. Here's the boilerplate for it. And then what happens if we hit send now? Okay, GraphQL introspection is not allowed, but the query contains schema or type. So let's try to find a way around this defense. And pretty, not very pretty, but let's see. I see this as a get. Let's change the request method. What if I do a post and we send this? Like, let's full send this post. Okay, so method not allowed. All right, it's fine. Let's set this back to the get and then just make sure I didn't break anything. Cool. So now I want to know, like, hey, what if a new line is presented? Will this have an impact? So let's try this. And just like that, extremely simple, a new line character after schema got around the defenses. So not very defensive in my opinion, very simple. And one of the first things I would try if I were to continue on and like I didn't find this, maybe I would do different like content types or fuzz like the parameter headers, etc. But with this, we did find it. So let's right click on this, say GraphQL queries the sitemap. Let's go to target, view. This is under API. That threw me off for a second. Expand this out. And then we have, so get a user by their ID and delete an organization user, so a mutation. So maybe the first time we'll actually get to play around with a mutation. So something that could like edit, create, and delete data. Let's head over to this query, right click, send this to repeater. I want to see what actual users we have. The capability of retrieving potentially, let's see if there's any sort of like controls in place. So let's see, what is user 1? Well, we don't want to delete administrator. What's user 2? So there's user 2. What is user 3? Carlos. So that's the user we want to delete. So there's no controls in place for this. We can just read out data. Are there controls in place for this mutation? We would certainly hope so, but in the sake of this lab, we don't want there to be. We want to be able to delete that user. So that was user 3 for Carlos. And I'm going to go ahead and move this over here just so I can eyeball Firefox. Change that to a 3. And if this mutation works, this should delete the organization unit user. And then that's it. Let's send. So you deleted, and based off of this banner, looks like we did everything needed to solve this lab. So well done. I hope that you found value in this video and you learned a thing or two. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a wonderful day and happy hacking.